Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're jumping right into the pretty complex world of online betting in Somalia. It's a place full of legal tripwires and, well, some surprising workarounds. Now, we've gone through all the top online resources so you don't have to, with a lot of our key data and site analysis coming from the specialists over at betplace.us to really give you the full picture. So, let's get into it. So, let's just tackle the million-dollar question right out of the gate. Is online betting even legal in Somalia? Well, the short, official answer is a big, fat no. But the reality on the ground? That's a whole different story. And this slide right here really lays out that contradiction. On one hand, the law is crystal clear, no gray area. On the other hand, you've got what people are actually doing, which is pretty much ignoring that law. This creates this really high-risk situation for anyone wanting to place a bet, where what's legal and what's possible are just two completely different things. Okay, so if you're going to understand the true stakes here, you have to start with the law itself. Knowing the official rules of the game is always the first step if you want to figure out how to navigate it. And get this isn't some new rule. The ban on gambling goes all the way back to the 1963 Somali Penal Code, and they're not messing around with the penalties either. The law is very clear. You could face imprisonment. That makes any bet a pretty serious legal gamble. This number says it all, doesn't it? 0. That is exactly how many online betting companies are officially licensed or approved by the government inside Somalia. Legally speaking, a local online market just doesn't exist. But here's the twist. This is the crucial gap. Even with these strict laws on the books, the government just doesn't have the tech infrastructure to actually block people from getting to international betting sites. And that loophole? That's the very reason this whole offshore market can exist and cater to Somalis. So, with all these risks, the big question is, how do people actually do it safely? Well, our sources lay out a pretty clear game plan for anyone who chooses to get involved. In this kind of legal gray zone, staying anonymous and secure is literally everything. The recommended strategy is this 4-step toolkit. First, always use a VPN to cover your digital tracks. Second, only use reliable, licensed offshore sites. Don't just go anywhere. Third, use cryptocurrencies to keep your money private. And fourth, and this one is critical, never, ever link any of this to your local Somali bank account. Let's zoom in on those payment methods for a sec. The overwhelming advice is to go with decentralized options, like Bitcoin and Ethereum. Why? It's simple. They don't run through the traditional banks, which gives you a huge layer of privacy. You'll also see some other digital payment services on this list like EV Plus and Perfect Money, which are just more alternatives to avoid a direct bank transfer. Okay, so you've got your safety measures down. The next question is, where do you actually go? Now we're going to look at some of the top offshore sites, and this is all based on really detailed analysis from our main source, betplace.us. So, sites like betplace.us, they do the heavy lifting. They review and rank all these international platforms that are available to players in Somalia. We're going to touch on a few of their top picks, but if you want the full deep dive list, we've put a direct link for you right in the description below. Now, one name that kept popping up as a really trusted option is Melbet. In the BetPlace analysis, it scores a super high 4.7 out of 5. That puts it right up there at the top of the list for the region. But of course, Melbet's not the only game in town. This table gives you a really quick side-by-side. You see Melbet's high score and its Curacao license. Now compare that to a site like 888 Sport. It's been around longer, has a Maltese license, but scores a 3.0. Then you have Betway, the oldest of the three, which actually holds multiple big-name licenses. It just goes to show you the variety that's out there in terms of reputation and oversight. So, what's everyone betting on? Shocker? Football is king. It absolutely dominates, making up a huge chunk of all the bets. But here's what's really interesting to me. Look at the rise of other markets. You've got basketball and esports, both carving out a serious piece of the pie at 15% each. That shows a real shift in what people are interested in. So when you're comparing these sites, our sources say you've got to look beyond just the name. Yeah, competitive odds are a must, but also check for good welcome bonuses, a solid mobile app so you can bet on the go, and live streaming options. And honestly, maybe the most important thing, make sure they have 24/7 customer support. When you're dealing with offshore sites, you absolutely need to know help is there if you need it. All right, let's pause here because we're at the most important part of this whole conversation. Using a VPN, using crypto, that's all about technical safety. But personal safety, actually practicing responsible gambling, that's everything. And look, this part is just non-negotiable. You have to set strict limits on your money and your time. Only, and I mean only, bet with money you can genuinely afford to lose. It is so important to see this as entertainment, not a job or a way to make income. Use the tools these sites offer, like self-exclusion, and most importantly, know when it's time to stop. And if you or anybody you know is worried about their gambling habits, please remember that help is out there. There are great international services like GamCare, and our source also pointed us to a local anonymous helpline at 800-800-40. Support is available. So, we'll leave you with this to think about. In a high-stakes environment like this one, what's truly the most important bet you can make? Well, it's the one you place on your own safety and your own well-being. Thanks for tuning in.